This movie is f***ing disgusting. If you're someone that's squeamish, I definitely would avoid it. Hey everybody, Anthony here from Awesome Anthony Productions, and today I'm going to be talking about Luca Guadagnino's latest film, Bones and All. Before we get started, you know what to do. Scroll on down, hit subscribe, hit the bell so that you never miss any of my content. You can also find links to my TikTok and my Instagram in the description below. Let's get into it. Taylor Russell plays Maren, a young cannibal whose father has been locking her up at night and trying his best to stifle the urges as long as he can. But after one slip up at a sleepover, he takes off in the middle of the night, leaving her with nothing but her birth certificate and a tape recorder. That explains the nature of her problem and what he's had to do to deal with it over the years.
You didn't. When the cops get here, you have to be good and gone.
I can't help you anymore. I know it's not your fault. You were born this way. You ate them. I believed you had to. I don't know why.
So from there, Maren hits the road, potentially hoping to find out more about herself and why she is the way she is. And on the road, she runs into Timothee Chalamet's Lee, another cannibal on the run just like her. Of course, they bond over being outsiders and they fall in love. But are they really going to be able to live happily ever after when they are the way that they are? Especially when there's other cannibals out there that maybe don't hold the same kind of views they have, like Mark Rylance, who plays Sully and gives easily the creepiest performance I have seen all year. But I'll get to that a little later. So now that you know the plot of the movie, let's talk about the characters, because Taylor Russell and Timothee Chalamet are f***ing fantastic in this film. They both give very subtle performances that hint at their difficult lives and their baggage and everything. And they come off so natural, and their relationship builds up very naturally, and every single time that they're intimate together, whether they're actually being physically intimate or just discussing themselves and discussing their emotions and their lives and how they deal with what they are, the movie really is very emotional. And that just plays into Luca Guadagnino's past and how well he knows how to write characters, especially in Call Me By Your Name, which had some of the most realistic characters I've ever seen. Speaking of that, the movie is very realistic and grounded to the point where the characters and their interactions feel incredibly real, adding to the emotion and romance, while also seriously building up the nasty, visceral body horror that is on display in this film. Those cannibalism scenes are disgusting and made all the more horrifying by the sound design. I mean, you hear every crunch, squelch, splatter. Oh, this movie's gross, but it's done very well. It's weird because the cinematography is really great here. A lot of this movie is a road movie. It's basically a coming-of-age romance that's also kind of a road trip movie. I think it was all filmed in Ohio, but a lot of it is filmed like they're driving through the 80s Midwest in the US. And it's beautiful to look at and really gives a homey feeling that's just amplified by that realism like I was talking about. But when it gets into those nasty body horror scenes I was just talking about, it's weirdly beautiful. The scenes when people are eating together, it's weirdly intimate. It's hard to describe, but if you see the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. And talking about those and juxtaposing the 2 points of the romance and the body horror really makes me think about how this movie nails the tone. It could have been so simple for this film to turn out completely uneven, going from some very realistic and loving scenes of romance to some nasty body horror, and have those elements not really mesh all that well. But everything is balanced very naturally, and the romance is interwoven into the plot to where it never feels unnatural. So before I go any farther, I'm going to get back to the characters here and their performances. I know I already talked a bit about Taylor Russell and Timothee Chalamet and their subtle performances and how they portray all that trauma and everything, but they can also be pretty creepy when they need to be, and those two characters just have a great journey, and even though they're cannibals, you find yourself emotionally invested into the story and going with it on the ups and downs of this roller coaster ride here. But if I can also talk about Mark Rylance again, wow, he is so creepy in this film. He is like the perfect actor that you wanted for this role. He's got a quiet creepiness, he's obsessive. I mean, when he sees Maren, he literally tells her that he could smell her a half a mile away.
I came looking for you. I smelled you.
That's creepy enough on its own, but the obsession that he forms with her and the way that he picks and eats his victims and the souvenirs he keeps from them, everything about this character is so creepy and unhinged, and it makes for a very unpredictable watch whenever he's on screen. He was great. I don't want to give too much away, but he definitely has a villainous presence in the film, and every single time he's on screen, I was very tense, especially when it's just him and Taylor Russell. There's also Michael Stuhlbarg, and he is completely unrecognizable here as another eater who's really creepy that you see in the trailer. He's not in the film all that much, but his monologue and his characterization and the fact that he's completely unrecognizable from the quiet, nice kind of dude that we've seen in other films, especially in Call Me By Your Name, really was unsettling, and he definitely left a mark on this film. Yeah, everything here is just balanced so well. The performances, the romance, the body horror, the creepiness, the realism, the beautiful cinematography, the great score, it all turns out really well. And I think that just really represents where Guadagnino is in his career. It seems like the guy never misses. Between Suspiria, Call Me By Your Name, and this movie, which I think are the only three that I've seen by him, I'm blown away by just how talented this director is. And this film really perfectly portrays where he is in his career right now. The body horror scenes and all that gore and visceral nastiness really reminds me of a lot of the scarier scenes in Suspiria, especially a scene involving a character dancing. But then the romance and the slower scenes that come in feel very reminiscent of his work on Call Me By Your Name. And he takes that intimate knowledge of the body and touch and everything that was present in those last two movies and really amplifies it in both the romance and the nasty scenes here. And like I've said several times already, it's balanced so well, it really works. Which is funny because Suspiria and Call Me By Your Name, those two films couldn't be any more different in both style and tone. Yet this film still takes the best parts of those and combines them into something that still feels unique and original while being its own beautiful story. Disturbing one, but still beautiful. It was honestly really hard to think about a complaint for this film, though there was something that nagged at the back of my head throughout the entire thing. I was still able to be emotionally invested in the romance and the story between Lee and Maren, and the tone still works incredibly well with mixing the cannibalism and the romance. But I still had a really hard time forgetting the fact that these two characters were eating people. And on the run because they were eating people. Killing people, eating them, however you want to call it. That's not okay. It's kind of hard to invest yourself in characters that do such despicable things while the movie's trying to tell you that it's okay and that they have a code and that this is morally okay because some of the people that get killed here are assholes. But at the end of the day, regardless of how despicable some of the people in this movie are, they don't deserve to get murdered and eaten. But it's still a movie, and I was able to suspend my disbelief and invest myself into the story and romance between these two characters. And where the story went and where it took me was very emotional, and I went along for the ride, and it was a roller coaster. Trust me, I gasped, I chuckled a couple times, I cried, my stomach churned. I'm not that squeamish, but this movie was a lot in those scenes. Overall, though, it works. It's a balancing act that paid off. And I think this is just another hit that Guadagnino can add to his roster, honestly. But like I said in the beginning of the video, if you're squeamish, I definitely wouldn't check it out. Because some of the scenes in this movie are going to stick with me for a long time. And that's my review of Bones and All, one of my most anticipated movies of the year, considering the trailer only came out a couple months ago. And I would say it was worth it. If you like this review, please go ahead and leave a like, and you can also comment below. Let me know what you thought of the review, or if you saw the movie, which I don't think is very likely, because I was the only person in my theater pretty much opening weekend. Then comment below and let me know what you thought of the movie. You can also find the links to my TikTok and my Instagram in the description below, and click or tap on these cards here. They'll take you to my last review of the menu, or over to my channel where you can check out my reviews, my shorts, and my old shit. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I'll see you on the next one, and I'm not gonna go eat anything because that movie made my stomach flip.